I think a lot of people are kind of missing the point on this one, because for me, if it's a president I dislike building a presidential library, I want it to be ugly. The worst thing ever would be to be incredibly jealous and say, my gosh, Obama, terrible president, but what a great library. I don't want to go there because I hate everything he did, but it looks really good, so I kind of want to go. I would much rather be in a position where it's like, all right, he's got a library befitting of his presidency. Ugly monstrosity, bigger than it needed to be. That's, I think, the ideal scenario. That's everything I want in an Obama library.
I love that point. That is so great. It's a reflection of his presidency. All right, guys, good Thursday to you. The left is literally melting down. Not because of the sanctions on Ukraine, not because we got a great peace deal in the Middle East, because Trump's adding a ballroom to the White House. That's right. I've never seen so much outrage about an addition to the White House that, by the way, is completely covered by non-taxpayer funds. I mean, like, I think the left is pissed. I think they're like, why isn't the government involved? Why aren't we paying for this? I think that's the biggest problem that we have. We're going to break that all down. And then if you haven't seen pictures of Obama's library, I'm sorry, I'm going to show them to you because you can't unsee them once you see them. It is literally when you ask Siri to show you a monstrosity, it's that. We'll break that all down, plus a lot more news of the day. Jen Psaki, Bernie Sanders are out with new books. We'll talk about that as well. Tomorrow, by the way, great show coming your way with Attorney General in Virginia, Jason Miyares. He is in the national spotlight because of comments that Jay Jones, the Democrat, made about trying to kill a political opponent and then watch the child of that political opponent die in the mother's arms. But that's it. That's just a small little thing. And the guy wants to be Attorney General. What could be wrong with that? Next week, by the way, John Solomon, Chicks on the Right, and Michael Knowles will all be here. So that's why you've got to hit that subscribe and notification button. And if you're one of the people that watches on video, YouTube, Rumble, X, whatever, thank you that. But I'm telling you, always need a backup plan. I'm always getting you got to have an exit route. And my view is it's always good to go to the audio version on Spotify and Apple and subscribe. You never know what's going to happen in this crazy world that we live in. Maybe you're out on the run, you're driving, you're riding a bike, you're working out, you're getting into your Maha world and going for extra long runs, and you want to listen to the show. That's great. So always go over there. It totally helps us as well, just to be clear. All right, before I bring in the panel, I don't know about you guys. You know that I do a lot of cooking, grilling, cooking, right? And when I'm cooking and I'm putting stuff in a pan, I used to use like oils. I mean, that was just kind of what I was taught to use. But you may not be realizing that using these ultra-processed vegetable and seed oils can expose your family to byproducts that were once deemed unfit for human consumption. And I'm not kidding you. Here's the thing. I did some research on this. It might blow your mind to know this. Seed oils, many of them were initially used as machine lubricants for warships, and then Big Food took them over. It's unbelievable. So what I've done is I've actually started to use Golden Age tallow when I cook, and it is unbelievable. It's a total game changer. It tastes better. I love it. I put it in whether I'm doing omelets or just frying something up, vegetables or whatever. A total different thing. It's 100% American-made, grass-fed beef tallow. It brings back the wholesome cooking that our ancestors swore by. It makes your food taste incredible. Unlike seed oils, it leaves you feeling light and energized and satisfied, no bloat. So go to goldenagefats.com/Sean and use code Sean, SEAN, for 25% off your first order. I'm telling you, if you're someone who likes to cook a lot, you will notice the difference instantly. My morning eggs are so much better because of the Golden Age Fats. So try to go to goldenagefats.com/Sean, SEAN, and you get 25% off. You'll thank me later. By the way, if you're thinking of quitting something like vaping or smoking, that's good for you. Quitting is, right? Because you don't want to be doing that. And I'll tell you what is a huge game changer for a lot of folks. If you're a vapor, you know what I'm talking about. You get on a plane, you're in your meeting, you can't vape. No one's going to let you do that. Plus, it's hard to do it. So I wanted to introduce you guys to Zippix. These things are nicotine-infused toothpicks. They're convenient. They're great tasting. I don't know because I don't do that, but they do make these energy ones that are with great flavor. So if you're just looking to get a pick-me-up in the middle of the day, you can put a toothpick in your mouth in a meeting. You'll look cool. Everybody's going to be like, what's he doing? But you don't have to worry about smoke or any of that kind of stuff, but you get the same nicotine delivery. They're proudly made in the U.S. Zippix are one of the most cost-effective nicotine products in the market. You can get yours online by going to zippixtoothpicks.com, and it's Zippix, zippixtoothpicks.com. Use code Sean, SEAN, for 10% off your first order. That's Zippix Toothpicks. And remember, Zippix is not an FDA-registered smoking cessation project, so please avoid making any concerns about that. If that's what you're looking to do, see a doctor. But I'm telling you right now, this is a great, safe alternative. especially if you're out in your office. So go to zippixtoothpicks.com. All right, it's my pleasure to bring in our all-star panel, former Congresswoman and Dr. Nan Hayworth, Alex Sawyer, a reporter at the Washington Times and the author of Lawless Lawfare, and first time at the show, Adam Gillette, the president of a.k.a. Media, which I love what you guys do, holding the media accountable. Adam, welcome to the show. Adam, you cover the media for a living. This meltdown about the ballroom, I want to start with my favorite one so far, Maria Shriver. She tweeted this out. Just sit down. I'm glad you're sitting because this is important. She said, "This breaks my heart and it infuriates me. Hundreds of millions of dollars to build a new ballroom. Good God." That's what Maria Shriver said. Adam, are you as equally outraged about this addition to the White House that will cost taxpayers absolutely nothing?
Oh my gosh, I can only imagine her at her therapist this week, bemoaning, pouring her heart out on the couch about how terrible that a public building is being enhanced with private dollars. It's the ultimate pathetic tribal story where if Obama had done this and used tax dollars, they would have loved it. But because Trump is doing and benefiting all subsequent presidents with his own cash, they're bothered by it. People forget that these buildings change. The West Wing, not just the TV show, but the actual West Wing, only dates back to the 20th century. Teddy Roosevelt built it so that he could have a larger federal government with more staffers. For me, generally, I like federal buildings so small that maybe they can work in a WeWork. That's what I like for federal buildings. I want that tiny of a government. But if he's going to enhance the White House with his own cash, no one should complain.
Alex, you're at the Washington Times. I have been amazed when I turn on the television or scroll through social media. It makes it appear as though it's being destroyed. They're like, Trump is destroying the White House, demolishing the
democracy. I think somebody said the destruction of democracy.
Well, that, yeah, I'll go there in a second. But you, when I first saw it, I thought to myself, did I get this wrong? Is he really destroying the East Wing?
No, it does not look like that. In fact, I think I looked back to see when the last time a renovation happened. I think there was some tweets to that effect. And it was 77 years ago. I know Maria Shriver, I think some of these liberals like Hillary Clinton who are outraged over this. I can guarantee you that where they're living was not renovated 77 years ago, right? I think that they're probably living in a much nicer place. And so the upkeep and the updating should happen at the People's House as well. One of the things to note too, I think, is the last update that occurred was actually like a full gut job, right? It's my understanding that it was even more destructive than the outside, the addition that's being added by President Trump here now. Prior to that, I think that was 1948, if I do my math right. I am a journalist, so check my math. It was the other renovations that happened were, I think, 1902 and 1927. So if you think about 1902, 1927, 1948, and then 2025, what were these other presidents doing? Why wasn't this a priority?
That's right. Nan, I want to play for you. This is the esteemed journalist himself, Mr. Jim Acosta, giving us some insight into what's really happening over there. Let me play the clip for everyone.
Gee, I wonder why the White House would have the entire perimeter of Lafayette Park closed to the public. It's entirely cordoned off right now. You can't get through it. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that the White House, because of Donald Trump, he has no respect for the People's House, is tearing a giant hole into the entrance of the East Wing of the White House. But don't despair. Don't worry. Your intrepid reporter here found one part of the south end of the Treasury Department building where you can look through a fence and see how Trump is demolishing our democracy, or at least a part of it, here at the White House.
Okay, so Nan, he's demolishing democracy. By the way, this is the same president who in the Oval Office is like showing everybody pictures. Like, here's what it looks like. Here's what it looks like. I don't think they're hiding anything. They're very proud of it. But apparently we're destroying democracy by chopping a wall.
You have to admire them, Sean, for their absolute doggedness at construing anything the president does as somehow destroying democracy. Here the man is actually building a ballroom that has been much needed and is not destroying in any way anything that is an heirloom part of the White House complex. The East Wing was an add-on itself. So this is a man who is actually building something new and great, and that's what's driving them crazy. They're so immune to irony or to self-awareness or insight that they can't understand that America's public has basically, quietly crept out of the room, and they're just leaving these people behind.
I got to jump in real quick. Can I say something? Because Sean, as White House press secretary, I'm sure you have a comment on this. But Jim Acosta calling himself an intrepid reporter, I am so sorry. But let's just all take a minute and laugh, because the only thing I think he's really aggressive about is getting himself in the news. And, a really good reporter wants to have a byline, not be in the headline. And anything he does and says, it's pure for himself and getting attention.
I might steal that, Alex. I love that. A byline, not a headline. He literally has no shame. He's like, you're esteemed. And he's acting like somehow he's uncovering something. It's like when you do a construction site, you know what I mean? Anywhere they cover up stuff so that the debris doesn't fly around. And like, he's acting like somehow he just discovered like the jewels, the crown jewels. He's like, I found a way to see it. There's been no lack of transparency with this in terms of seeing it or showing it off. Like I said, the president of the Oval Office is handing out the plans to it. And like, this is what it looks like. Adam, the best one to me so far though, and there's days when someone, I'll get involved in something, and I'll have someone I know, or my wife will be like, hey, Sean, maybe you should sit this one out. Like, depends on and there's someone who should sit this out, and it's Hillary Clinton. She literally tweeted out, it's not his house, it's your house, and he's destroying it. And man, I was blown away at it was like she just incited responses. There's a few that noted, let's just say this, Adam. They noted what her husband did in the Oval Office of adult nature. I think if you need to know what I'm talking about, use your internet and Google. But you get what I'm saying. They were like, maybe you don't want to talk about defiling the house.
Yeah, Clinton's plan that nobody ever was able to uncover, he wanted to install a Playboy Mansion grotto. A lot of people don't know that. Hillary had to veto it at the last minute. I don't know what's sadder, if they're just pretending to be outraged or if they're actually bothered by this. Both of them would be pathetic outcomes, but I legitimately don't know if it's worse for this to be performative or if they actually mean it. They obviously have no integrity, but you at least want to take them seriously as a human being. And if they're just putting it on, okay, I kind of get it, but they have nothing better to attack Trump on than the fact that he's improving the White House. It's kind of pathetic.
Yeah. Nan, the funny part is Benny Johnson and a bunch of other people tweeted out this. Hey, Hillary, remind us, wasn't it you that walked off with $28,000 in White House furniture when you moved out? Like, she got caught stealing stuff. She talks about destroying it. It's not his house, it's your house. And it's like, dude, you might want to have remembered you had to send stuff back that you took. Talk about it not being your house. You guys were the ones that tried to steal stuff from it.
Yeah, the other comment that I loved was from the folks who said, yes, unlike what you and the Clinton Foundation aspired to do in Haiti and failed to do, you have built nothing. You have destroyed much. And that's, again, Hillary Clinton is desperately trying to make herself relevant, and she is failing. And that obviously she is railing against the fates for having put her in this position. And like a typical lefty, she's going to blame everyone but herself.
Alex, the Democrats tweeted out a picture and said, remember what he did to the Rose Garden. Okay. And it's the Rose Garden before and the Rose Garden now. And the thing is, it's funny about this to me is I was at Charlie Kirk's the Medal of Freedom presentation. And I was back there with the press corps. And all of them were saying, it is a lot nicer to be able to walk around the Rose Garden. Because again, remember, this is again where the press is lying about this. He's not destroying the East Wing, he's adding to it. The roses are still there. The Rose Garden is still there. What he changed was the fact that the soggy grass that you would stand in, and in particular women whose heels would fall into it, dudes whose shoes would get disgusting. And he put made it very nice. And I'm sitting around the press, Alex, a lot of the people that you encounter, and they were like, hey, this is actually a lot nicer being out here because we can stand here, not sink into the grass, not get disgusting. And obviously the attendees, I think, same thing. And the Democrats wanted to highlight that as they were like, look at what he did to the Rose Garden. And I'm going, yeah, everyone who's been there so far said smart move.
Yeah, and that picture you're referring to, it actually kind of looks like it's like this kind of grayish. I don't know if it was photoshopped, but it looks kind of like dark and gloomy over that pavement. I don't really know. It was like, I was like, oh, we kind of want to make it look, less attractive, less sunshine. No, I think you're right. Not only heels, but also tripods. This president is one of the most transparent presidents we've had, especially compared to the prior administration. And being able to be out there on pavement, have more tripods, have more cameras, have more press access is exactly what people need. And this is the same press, I am sure, who would, if it was COVID times, would love the idea of being outside, right? Because we have to think about our health, our safety. I don't know if they would still put masks on, but it's something to think about. I remember when they were doing the renovation to the Rose Garden, adding that pavement, I was thinking like exactly back to 2020 and how hard it was to do our jobs. And I thought how nice it would have been to have more access in a place like that to allow lawmakers, the president, to come and deliver remarks and allow more of a press action, large groups to associate. So yeah, I think that this is just, more TDS.
Oh, 100%. Adam, it was funny going back to the Maria Shriver thing. Ted Cruz responded to her and said, does it break your heart that in 1948, and this is kind of what Alex had been saying before, but he says, in 1948, Harry Truman undertook a total reconstruction of the White House's interior, preserving only its exterior walls. Or in 1962, when your uncle, JFK, constructed the modern Rose Garden. Or is it just Trump? I mean, this literally is. They don't want to acknowledge that lots of presidents have added to the White House, made it better. It's just that they don't like it because he's doing it.
I just hate when people assume that everything is how it is and it's always been that way. They don't realize so frequently that their traditions are modern. As we said, the West Wing is from the early 20th century. People didn't start doing the Pledge of Allegiance regularly until after World War II. But people just assume that whatever things are like right now, that's how they've always been. Traditions change all the time. New ones get added, old ones get forgotten. Buildings change all the time. I hate when we have local governments that designate something historic and it has to stay that way and you can never change this building. Because what's to say that that point in time is the exact ideal one and it should be held at that for the rest of eternity? It's silly. It's exactly Trump derangement syndrome. And again, I don't know what's worse, if they're faking it or if they're actually bothered by this.
But there's actually a simple way to determine it. And boy, is that convenient. If a Democrat did it, it's fine. If a Republican's doing it, it's just awful.
Yeah.
That's the way
that applies to everything.
Yeah,
exactly.
Alex, the interesting thing about this is they keep calling it Trump's ballroom, Trump's ballroom, Trump's ballroom. Number one, I mean, to some degree, it kind of is because he's paying for it. But the thing that I find ironic about this whole situation is even if you assume that everything runs on schedule, which, I've been involved in a couple renovations myself. I think contractors generally tell you one thing and then reality is separate. Anyone who's gone through that knows what I'm talking about. But at best case scenario, at least from what I understand, is it's like late 2027 before it's done. So this is actually something that President Trump is doing that future presidents will benefit from, not him. It's largely his second term will go without it. It's just, it'll be ready for J.D. Vance or whoever the next president is. I find it funny that all these people who want to blame Trump don't realize that it will be future presidents that benefit more than he is. And it was a bunch of random tents in the past when they've had state dinners and things like that.
Yeah, so two things on that point. I remember the outrage. There was like some pushback when it was announced that he was going to build a new Air Force One, renovate Air Force One. And that, of course, is not something that at the time he was going to benefit from whatsoever. And the same thing can be said here. To your point, Sean, maybe a few months that he would be there if it's all completed on time. I also think that, this is, to your point, we're going to be hosting big events there. You don't want to do that in tents. That's not a reflection of the United States of America. And President Trump, I've been in some of his ballrooms. I went to the former Trump Hotel here in DC a few times. I was in that ballroom. It is beautiful. If we are going to have some president have to build a ballroom, I think he deserves to be the one. He does a great job.
He does. And that's the thing, is that the renderings, no one's taken an issue with that, by the way, Alex. I'm glad you brought that up. No one has said, oh my God, it looks gaudy or it looks this. It actually looks, it's keeping with the current architecture. It looks beautiful on the inside. And here's the thing, Adam. This is in sharp contrast. All these Democrats who want to weigh in on what he's doing to the monstrosity. And that's what it is that's about to get opened up in Chicago. And I'm speaking now of the Obama Presidential Library. It is unbelievable. I mean, I just, to me, all of these people who are commenting on this, it's like, do you not want to look at what's happening in Chicago? Because this thing's disgusting.
I think a lot of people are kind of missing the point on this one, because for me, if it's a president I dislike building a presidential library, I want it to be ugly. The worst thing ever would be to be incredibly jealous and say, my gosh, Obama, terrible president, but what a great library. I don't want to go there because I hate everything he did, but it looks really good, so I kind of want to go. I would much rather be in a position where it's like, all right, he's got a library befitting of his presidency. Ugly monstrosity, bigger than it needed to be. That's, I think, the ideal scenario. That's everything I want in an Obama library.
I love that point. That is so great. It's a reflection of his presidency. Nan, Trump the Builder responded to it. I want to play you what he thought of the Obama library. Take a look.
They're also building the Obama Presidential Library. I'm wondering if you've
He needs help.
Have you seen pictures of the architecture? And
Yeah, I did. It's not too pretty. No, but it's closed. It's stopped. They ran out of money. It means building a library / museum. You know, you call it some museum, and usually they call it library and museum. That's the official name. And they're stuck. And he wanted only women and DEI to build it. Well, that's what they got. And the construction workers are standing out there and saying, we want to be able to build it. You know, I built a great building in Chicago, as you know, a big, beautiful building, one of the tallest buildings in the country. And we got it built very quickly, very well. And we used the construction workers of Chicago. They're great workers. They're great construction people. And I suggested he get them involved, but they're hundreds of millions of dollars over budget, and I think it stopped. I'm reading these terrible stories, but that's the way our country was run under President Obama too. Nobody knew it.
Dan, I mean, you got a builder weighing in on that. That's not a good sign for what's to come.
President Trump is right, but to Adam's point, this is the perfect. You look at that structure, and it is the absolutely perfect melding of architecture, of construction, the failed construction, and the man himself. Trump, the builder, Obama, the desecrator, the destroyer. And not only that, but there has been a terrible response by the community around this monstrosity, who have said for years now that they were promised many benefits of having this library and museum there. And they have been greeted instead with this hideous thing that has not yielded the promised economic activity, jobs, or anything else that they thought it would. So it's just the perfect encapsulation. It is to the extent that these libraries should be emblematic of the presidents for whom they're being, in whose memory they're being built or in whose honor they're being built. This one may top them all.
Well, it's funny. Dinesh D'Souza tweeted out, he said, if you're wondering where Obama got the inspiration for his presidential library, the other building below that he put in this tweet is a North Korean guard tower. And it is striking how they actually look so similar. I mean, you do wonder who the architect that came up with this was and said, yeah, this is a really good idea. I thought it looked like something out of a Star Wars movie. Like it looked like a Death Star. I don't know.
Yes.
All right. I want to move from construction and property to people. Caroline Leavitt was referred to by deplorable by her predecessor, Corinne Jean-Pierre, who's out on a book tour. She called Caroline, Alex, deplorable. And she said, and I'm using that word on purpose, which it is unbelievable. She's out on this book tour to take a gratuitous shot at Caroline. This is Caroline Leavitt responding to KJP calling her a deplorable.
Well, with all due respect to my predecessor, She is one of the main culprits of the greatest cover-up and scandal in American history. She took the podium every day and lied to the press about the incompetence of her boss. And on this book tour, she continues to lie. She said this past week that Joe Biden would still be up for the job if he had, God forbid, been reelected in November. She actually said this week as well on a podcast that Joe Biden did more press engagements than President Trump currently does now. Any person across the aisle can tell you that is a bald-faced lie. And I will just add, when you talk to the real journalists, not the ones who are actually activists that pose as journalists, but the people who actually care about truth, and there are some of those left in the White House press corps, I work with them every day, they will tell you the Trump White House is the most accessible and transparent White House ever. Not only does the president take questions from the press on a near daily basis, multiple times per day, as he did today, but we also provide truthful and accurate information about what this administration is doing and accomplishing. And it's a stark contrast to what they had over the past 4 years, where they were gaslit, where they were told Joe Biden was mentally stable and up for the job. That was a lie. Where they were told the administration was doing everything it could to secure the border. Also a lie. I'm very proud to work for the greatest president in history. I know Karine unfortunately worked for the most incompetent president in history. So I guess she has a reason to be bitter, but being bitter will not sell you books, Jesse.
You know, it's funny, Alex. I normally, prior to my tenure, it was sort of an unspoken rule that you didn't take pot shots at your predecessors. And Corinne, you went out of her way.
Respect, right? Is that respect, I think, is what's missing now.
Yeah, I don't know if it was just a pot shot to sell books, but to go out of her way to call Caroline deplorable after what she went through was just not a smart move.
No, I agree. Well, I mean, she had a lot of not smart moves, right, Sean? I don't know if that's too surprising. But when I was thinking about the two of them, and you were a White House press secretary, it's a hard job. I'm deciding who has the harder job, right? Pierre had to cover up for the president, and Leavitt has to keep up. Because I think it's like the smell test. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican. Who is going to buy that President Biden did more press avails than President Trump? I mean, we all know President Trump he brings the cameras in any chance you can get. It's hard to even as a reporter keep a schedule because you don't know when any sort of breaking news will happen, when he'll invite the press in, how long he'll invite the press in for. He is so accessible. And I think that could make your job as a press secretary harder because although he's doing the speaking to the press and the transparency, you have to keep up with all that. And then for the previous administration, I mean, it is true. What Caroline Leavitt said was that she was out there during the Biden administration telling basically lies that the president was with it. He was capable of the job. We all saw that July debate. I mean, it's historic that he had to suspend his campaign, pass the baton over to Kamala Harris. The American people, they saw what they saw, and that's why there is a President Trump.
Yeah. Nan, it wasn't just her, though. You think that it was Jen Psaki decided to get in on the action as well. She was like, hey, guess what? I see Karine getting some headlines. Maybe I should. She wanted to weigh in on J.D. Vance's marriage. Again, where these guys think this is a good idea? I want to play you the clip of what she said about J.D. Vance and his relationship with his wife, Usha. Take a look.
I think the little Manchurian candidate, J.D. Vance, wants to be president more than anything else.
Yeah.
I always wonder what's going on in the mind of his wife. Are you okay? Please blink 4 times.
Yes.
We'll come over here. We'll save you. And that he's willing to do anything to get there.
Okay. Nan, why would you're Jen Psaki, why do you need to weigh in on that? I mean, first of all, I find it highly disrespectful. Yeah. Usha Vance is a very accomplished intellectual woman, professional woman in her own right. And the idea of demeaning her by saying somehow she needs to be saved it actually, to me, as some of these women who are in that roundtable, they all love to talk about female empowerment and all this. That was, to me, unbelievably demeaning to Usha Vance and her intellect and her prowess.
Spot on, Sean. Yes, Usha Vance is an attorney. As far as I know, she may still be actively practicing. She's raising 3 beautiful children with her husband, taking them all around the world and presenting herself as you said, intelligent, dignified, and thoroughly in love and in partnership with her husband. But this is always the theme among the left. They claim to be champions of women, and yet the only women they ever praise are the ones who are in line with their philosophy and with their culture. And we see it happening now in Virginia. We see the commentary. Mika Brzezinski on Morning Joe asked, said, well, in other countries, they have no trouble electing women. And of course, Winsome Sears pointed out on X, who wants to tell her?
I did a video on it. I was like, you guys do know that in Virginia, there are only 2 women that are running. So like, it's going to happen. I mean,
they don't know what a woman is, Sean.
They can't define it.
That's it.
God, Alex Sawyer, once again for the win. That's the answer. I've been trying to put my finger on it. You know what? That's the answer. They just don't know what a woman is. Oh, Alex, I love it. Hey, Adam, one of the things that you guys are doing over at Accuracy in Media is really exposing how, despite all of these efforts to get rid of DEI, that there's a lot of these universities that are still instilling and hiding it in the curriculum. I want to play a clip, just a few seconds of what you guys are doing through some of your hidden camera stuff. Take a look at this.
We're still, I think, figuring out as we go. The programs that we're doing, I think technically we're still allowed to do them, but they have to be marketed a certain way.
Okay. Actually, Adam, explain what's going on. Like, what are you guys trying to do through these videos?
So once many of these states started banning DEI in higher education, we decided to take a visit, pop on by, see if they're actually following the law. Obviously, thank goodness we're all sitting down, because university after university after university, these staffers brag to us about how they're breaking the law, ignoring the law, circumventing the law, and they lay out their tactics and techniques for how they do it. That university is showed there. It wasn't Berkeley. It wasn't Boulder. It was the University of Utah. You've got hard right Mormon country Utah and multiple universities. These administrators brag to us about how they're still pushing this oppressor-oppressed garbage, how America is systemically racist, capitalism is inherently racist. And again, this is happening in red states. And our investigators, they don't go deep undercover for months. They just pop in the office. And these folks are so brazen. They feel so unaccountable, so confident in getting away with it. They just spill the beans every time.
That's unbelievable. I mean, I'm glad to see. When I watched it, some of the videos that you guys have on your website and that you post on X, I was like, this is insane. I thought that like these guys had gotten the memo.
No, they have got no memo at all. They pass around internal memos saying, hey, we're just getting new business cards. Honestly, a good get-rich-quick scheme would be to be a business card company in a red state. Because in K through 12 and in higher ed, all these people are doing in DEI is changing their job titles, sometimes multiple times in the same year. But then we go and meet with them and they say, yeah, I'm doing the exact same work. We just have to market it slightly differently. In all of the states except Kansas, the laws banning DEI are worse than worthless. They accomplish nothing. They provide a false sense of security. Credit to Kansas for banning DEI, but actually having a reporting mechanism and actually having penalties for those who break the law, which I know sounds like a crazy idea.
Alex, I want to go into your wheelhouse. You cover the Supreme Court. You've written a whole book on laws and lawfare and all this stuff. There was a case that came up at the Supreme Court this week, which I think is really interesting because it was we got Hunter Biden on this to some degree. But the Supreme Court is considering whether people who regularly smoke pot can legally own guns. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm not a big believer that we should be legalizing pot. That's a whole second story. But I also think that like you can't behaviorally start to say if you engage in this activity, then you can't, your Second Amendment rights go away. What did you take out of maybe the court, and is there any early signs where they're headed?
I think it's a really interesting case. So what's happened is this week they decided to hear it. So they're going to, at some point, probably early next year, early 2026, have oral arguments on the topic. And then we'll get a decision by the end of June, usually next summer. So what we're seeing now after 2022, when the Supreme Court issued a major Second Amendment ruling, was basically gun control laws have to be consistent back with the country's tradition and history dating back to the founding. So you have a lot of various laws being challenged. And this one in particular is about drug users possessing firearms. And there's questions about what you just got into. Are we going to separate this by drug? marijuana versus cocaine versus heroin? Do you actively have to be under the influence to then not possess a gun? Or can you be sober and last week have used marijuana? I don't know. Lots of questions to explore. To your point on marijuana, it's such a curious situation because we still have federal law banning it. And this is like, we're talking about federal laws being challenged with firearms. It's states that have, weakened their laws to allow certain marijuana use. It sets up a whole avenue for the Supreme Court to explore. There was a similar challenge last year, I believe it was, I covered, and it had to do with domestic violence. If someone under a domestic violence restraining order was able to possess a firearm, the court came out and said, of course not, that there's reasons to limit somebody's use of a firearm or possession at the time for safety reasons. I think that was the right decision. We'll see what they do here. But we have many, many months to find out. And I don't think we're actually going to know maybe which way they're thinking until we hear oral arguments early next year.
Okay. Nan, you mentioned the Virginia race. Tomorrow I've got Jason Mayara, the Attorney General, on. But Abigail Spanberger, who is the Democrat candidate for governor, facing Winsome Sears, who you mentioned, went on Katie Couric's podcast. Okay. And Katie Couric, who is a big lefty, I get that it sort of is asking her about Jay Jones, these texts that have come out about how he wanted to kill his political opponent and then watch the mother of his children die in their arms. I want to play for you this clip. It is unbelievable. You've been elected. You've done a ton of interviews. Take a look at how Abigail Spanberger handles what I would argue is an unbelievably softball interview with Katie Couric. Take a look.
If I'm being very honest, we are 3 weeks away from an election in Virginia. I have worked tirelessly for 2 years running for this office. I announced in November 2023. The fact that I say this with all due respect because, I think it's a fair thing for you to ask about, the fact that I have to spend even a moment's time talking about somebody else's text messages from years ago rather than what I want to do as governor is something that I am deeply unhappy about. The fact that I can't spend every minute of the day talking about the plans that I have built out, not to be too hokey about it, but like my multiple pages of plans, my affordability plan, my education plan, my growing our economy plan, because of the, poor choices of another candidate, it is something that really clouds my view of all of it. And so, what we, the collective, we would have done, had this information come to light much earlier, I will say this, I would be much, much happier as a candidate if I could just talk about all of the things that I am for.
Nan, you've run for office. You were elected office. Isn't that how it's supposed to go? You're only supposed to talk about what you want, and the journalists have to ask those questions?
Yes, certainly that was my experience, Sean.
I bet you it was.
Oh, yes, absolutely. As a conservative woman, there's such a flood of commentary that comes to your mind when you watch this. Number one, Abigail Spanberger can never give a compact, concise answer. Everything is a word salad, maybe a more academic sounding word salad than say that emerged from Kamala Harris's mouth, but basically the same thing. They really don't think very clearly, and they have a vague notion. I think that the way they're presenting the world isn't necessarily the most sensible, so they wrap it up in words. Second, I thought of Ilhan Omar as I was listening to the way she described her running mate for AG, a very, very important position in the Virginia government, and they're on the same ticket. You remember when Ilhan Omar referred to the 9/11 attacks, and she said, somebody did something. That distancing. It's like, no, it wasn't just somebody, Ms. Omar. It was somebody who practices the same philosophy about the world that you do. Radical Islamism, basically, right? And so it is with Abigail Spanberger. It's not just somebody, it's Jason Jones, your AG running mate. And it's not just something, it is literally expressing, and even when challenged, affirming that you would like to see the death of your Republican counterparts in government and their innocent children. So the fact that this should be disqualifying. This interview, anyone who sees this should say this woman is not ready. She is a narcissist. She is a liar. She refuses to to confront a profound issue. It should be disqualifying right there and then.
Alex, you know what I thought of when I watched that was what they think of the media, right? You're a journalist. I mean, I think that she was offended. How dare you, Katie Couric, ask me this question? Even though I endorsed him and I said he should stay in the race, I shouldn't be asked anymore because you should let me talk about what I want. You're supposed to only be tough on Republicans. I honestly think that's the way they view the media. Your job is to help us, not make us ask tough questions.
Yeah, so that's why they want to fund NPR and PBS, because that was part of their mechanism. But to the point that was just made, I think she used the term that it was a poor choice. I would say text messages about shooting someone of the opposite political party and their children is more than a poor choice. It's abhorrent. It should be described with different language, for sure. This is going to be a very interesting race to watch. I interviewed Winsome Sears just recently within the past 24 hours. One of the tough questions, two things to watch here in the coming weeks is President Obama is getting ready to campaign with Spanberger. We don't really see Trump being hands-on with Virginia, although he has said he wants the Republican to win. Winsome Sears has taken that as an endorsement for her. So we're going to have to see how that plays. And also, for decades now, Virginia has tended to go for the governor who's the opposite party of the president. I think there's one exception to that in the past few decades. So we're going to see if this makes history.
Interesting. All right. We always end our Thursdays with some winners and losers. Adam, you're new to the game. Who do you think won the week? We'll start with winners.
Oh gosh, I don't know who I could say won the week. It's so much easier. Whenever I think about politicians, I only think about losers. So I don't know. I don't know who necessarily won the week. Maybe Katie Couric, because people got to hear about her for the first time in years. When's the last time anybody thought of Katie Couric? Wow. Very exciting for her that she got that word salad response. I've never heard somebody use so many words to talk about something that they proclaim not to want to talk about.
All right, Nan, who won the week in your opinion?
Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. An anonymous group of generals in the Washington Times posted a laundry list of how hurt they felt by his demanding that as Secretary of War they shape up or leave the Corps, so to speak. And Sean, you could speak to it far more expertly than I, obviously, and thank you for your service. But the backlash to their whining was quite striking. And I think the losers of the week are...
Oh, wait. I'll get to that. Oh, by the way, now everyone should go to the Washington Times now. I'm sure Alex... I missed that. I got to check that out. Alex, who won the week in your opinion?
Well, I was trying to think about this, and I think I'm just going to say Donald Trump because he's always winning. I'm not tired of the winning yet. I don't know about you guys. It seems like he's always out on top, so we'll have to see what the next week brings. But yeah, I'd say he's a safe answer.
All right, I'm going to give my award of who won the week to Mike Johnson's comms team, and I want to tell you why. So Kathleen Clark, she's probably a former colleague of yours in the House, Nan. She's the number 2 Democrat. Yes. She said this about the shutdown. Let's play the clip.
I mean, shutdowns are terrible, and of course there will be, families that are going to suffer. We take that responsibility very seriously. But it is one of the few leveraged times we have.
Okay, you heard that. Families will suffer, and it's the one point of leverage that we have. Now, here's what Mike Johnson did. I'll put it up on the screen for everyone. They took that clip, they put it in the rotunda of the Capitol right outside of his office, and just played it on a loop over and over and over again, making sure that everyone knows what the top Democrat thinks about the shutdown, that we're using the suffering of people as leverage. Good to Mike Johnson and his team. You got my winner of the week. All right, Nan, you were chomping at the bit there. So tell me, who do you think lost the week?
Well, very regrettably, the girls, the young women athletes of the state of Minnesota, whose trend of suicidal empathy continues unchecked. The Minnesota Supreme Court unanimously upheld the complaint of a male power lifter who was said to have been unfairly excluded from a 2018 competition in the state of Minnesota. And the Minnesota Supreme Court said, yes, it was unfair and it was wrong. Clearly, this is, even though we've made so much progress in behalf of protecting women and girls, especially with President Trump's powerful help, we have a long way to go.
Adam, how about you?
I think Kareem Jean-Pierre, when the Who tell you they're doing a farewell tour, they're going to tour again. She hasn't called this her farewell tour, but I don't think we're even going to remember this woman in 2 years. I don't think there's going to be a big follow-up book that we all can't wait to buy. She had a very challenging job. Obviously, lying for Biden every day is a challenging job. She wasn't up to it. She wasn't qualified. She's not incredibly interesting on this tour. So I think it's her journey to obscurity tour, and it starts now.
I actually think she says she left the Democratic Party. I don't think anyone's asking her to come back. I agree with you, Adam. Good point on that. All right, Alex, tell us who you think lost the week.
So my favorite, you might have already touched on this earlier in the week, but the No Kings protests, I mean, they just kind of fell short. I think there was one tweet I saw. I'm actually going to read it for you. I don't know if you guys everybody saw the Team Trump, picture of my ring light there, of him, the AI image of him in the King. I think the King outfit that got 10.5 million views. It's my understanding that, for context, the No Kings videos on Instagram reached about 2 million. So, I mean,
that's awesome.
They fell flat.
All right. Well, I'm going to play off the ratings thing on this. My loser of the week are Democrats who published books this week. Let me just take you to Adam's point. Corinne Jean-Pierre put a new book out. That's why we're hearing from her. Congratulations, Corinne. You topped the top 25,000 books. That's right. Corinne Jean-Pierre, her new book came out, and on its launch was in the top 25,000 of new books. She got a 1.2 out of 5 rating for the reviews, but not to be outdone. Congratulations to Bernie Sanders, who cracked the top 4,000's book when he put his brand new book out this week. So guys, there you go. That's awesome. Thank you guys for being here. Loved it. Learned some great new stuff today. Tomorrow, as I mentioned, Attorney General from Virginia, Jason Miyares, joins us. Next week, we've got an amazing lineup, including John Solomon, that will be here. I got a new column coming out tomorrow at SeanSpicer.com that you can sign up for free. We'll see you back here tomorrow for the Sean Spicer Show. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.